So Rick, I'm really thrilled that you agreed to do this, albeit in a setting on video since you couldn't be with us in person.
Yeah, I'm very sorry.
But hey, that's fine because what we really wanted to do is to kind of get your experience and expertise that you have in looking at how belonging can affect the way people learn, the way that people interact, et cetera. And back in the summer, we've been talking back and forth coming out of your sermon series with Gina, where you talked about educational concepts. One of the things that Gina even talked today about was this idea of belonging. And I think we have this a general sense of what we think belonging means. In fact, I've asked the groups before we came on video to help define what they think belonging means. And so I thought maybe you could just give us a good intro into what really goes on behind the scenes of making people feel belonging, because there's really science to it, and there's so much more that goes into it other than being nice and hospitable, right? It's just one part of it. So just for everybody here, we have the slides up. We're going to be looking at the slides. They're also going to be behind you. You're going to be able to see them, and you have them at your table. So you'll know where we are as we go through this. So,
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and get started. Again, I'm really sorry I couldn't be there with everybody, but this is a good substitute. And one of the first things we want to do, and we've already done that, is, what does belonging really mean? If you look at the wider body of research and the insight born from people leading small groups, facilitators, and so on, you find it has these characteristics. The first, that we are seen and acknowledged, but that we are in a sense of presence. So I'm in the here and the now with you, which is a message to you that you matter, that you belong to this group because I care so much as to be present, rather than thinking about, well, what's on my phone? What's going on right now? All these things I have to do. Let me get through the conversation fast. We don't want to do that. But that we also have a shared purpose. We are coming together because we all agree on whatever the mission is. And what's really cool is if each person in the group has a role to play in making that purpose manifest and express that purpose. So I might be simply a recorder for some task force, but that's my purpose. I'm somebody, might be timekeeper. These are all classic, moves.
Sure.
But I might be somebody who's really trying to summarize and make this and always remind people, well, what would that look like with this community and this community and this community as we go through it? So whatever it is, people have some kind of purpose there.
Okay.
And then we're validated. Validation in our society, so often we curate kind of our online social media sense. And so we find validation, like if I post something on a social media site, do I get some kind of list of likes or thumbs up within 15 minutes? If I don't, I'm not validated. I almost get anxious and depressed about that. So to me, it's a bit of a mental illness to some degree, that we're overly dependent on the need for external validation. But one of the things that happens is I can be validated because you find something I say contributes to the overall conversation and helps move us along, move forward. That helps create a sense of a real belonging in the group.
Makes
the
sense.
next one down there is that we are connected in some way. We have shared purpose. So you'll become friendly with somebody by hiking a trail all day long, or preparing and serving that meal to other
Mission
people
trips.
or ourselves. Oh yeah, mission trips. Oh, but you get so much closer to those people. And then one of the big things in belonging is that I feel like I have a voice. So what I say matters, and I have some choice in that as well. So I can choose the way I might respond rather than some didactic, you must respond this way. Well, could I choose this way? And that person says yes, and that means that's valued in the group, that I can have a diverse approach to something. And then, of course, one of the biggest ones, do I feel safe in this group? And safe really is two parts. One is I can be myself without judgment or without somebody trying to change me. That's huge. But also that even if it's a positive point, let alone anything that might be a concern or a challenge, what we talk about in the group stays in the group. It's a safe place for me to be myself, and it doesn't go beyond to all the other parts of my life or the church life.
Right.
I think those kind of capture what it means, kind of a little bit more analytically, to really belong.
Yeah, and I'm sure
what
that
resonates with you.
I'm sure that the leaders at the table came up with. Some
Yeah,
of these
I
that are
imagine
on
they
the
probably
list, right?
did, yeah.
Especially a safe place. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years talking about safety,
Yeah.
and trying to help people understand why it's important to create a sense of safety.
Yeah,
That just goes beyond sharing your opinion
Right.
necessarily, right?
And it's more than just a warm embrace,
Right.
of something else, or figuratively you want to look at that. So we just really want to look at there's parts to it. And there might be parts to it that are not really our strong points. And maybe we need to work on that
Right.
if we want to really be an effective leader that really is focused on belonging. Now, I will remind you that there are practical tips and insights for how do you create belonging among group members.
Sure.
But there are some things that help build the capacity for that. And one of the things that has struck me over the years is that people just say, I'm now going to do belonging. And they never built the capacity for that to happen.
Right.
So I want to just show you a few ideas real quick
Great.
on that, and then we'll get to those practical tips as we do that. So one of the first things, and we're now shifting to another group of slides here, is that at any given moment in the conversation, people are usually doing the best they can.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to give you the benefit of the doubt because it might be only half cooked, whatever comes out. And you're like, people often say, I'm not sure how to say this, so I might just blurt it out, but it's an early draft.
Right.
Would you still honor me of accepting me to some degree? And that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think calling that out and publicly saying that goes a long way to creating a sense of belonging that I'm going to be okay here.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that the first rule of improvisation is yes and. So you start giving me your reality, I'm not just going to impose a different reality on you and start telling a different story. I'm going to take what you've got and I'm going to run with it. Yeah, and I can see how this might connect to that, and this might, so it gives legitimacy, and so you feel like, oh, I matter, I belong, this is a tone, or I can be myself. It's an atmosphere. And then one of the things that I think really helps is the group member has to remember that you control the camera lens to a large degree. Some members of the group might do this, but the facilitator of a group can pull that lens back, and sometimes we're lost in the weeds and the minutiae and we're reductive. Pull it out to, and how would this matter in the larger scheme of these things over here? So you see some examples on there, like pulling it out. Okay, we've really been talking about this for all. Is that a Christ-focused decision?
Right.
Or is it focused and based on something else? Whose voice isn't heard in our decisions? How do we minimize your hypocrisies? If we believe this, but our actions are here, how do we make that integral exchange? How might we explain this? I love this question. I use it a lot with adults. How might we explain that to an interested young teenager of some sort who's asking those important life questions? As a teacher, whenever I had student teachers, I learned way more about the art and science of teaching and learning, because I had to explain things that I just kind of never analyzed or critiqued before.
Right.
And now I have to explain it and justify its use in the classroom. I am transformed.
Yeah.
So critically examined faith strengthens it.
Oh,
An
absolutely,
unexamined
absolutely.
faith, it just filters away, peters out, and there's nothing to hold you in. Certainly not a place where I would belong.
Right.
Okay.
I love those, and actually the very first one has, I think, a lot of relevance for small groups, especially today, because one of the things that we face as a real challenge in leading groups is attendance, consistency of attendance, right? And yes, we do know that Northern Virginia is busy and people are pulled in a multitude of different directions. And one of the things that has changed, I think, dramatically over the past, since I've been involved in small groups, is the expectation that if you don't show up prepared and have read all of the material, don't come, right? Like, you're letting everybody else down in the group. And there may be some kernels of truth in that, but I think this point of assuming that people are doing the best they can and that they can still contribute regardless is something that we've really seen shift in the last few years. And I think it's an important trend. One of the reasons that video has gotten so important in small groups as well, because everybody can watch a video and then comment on it without necessarily having read any of the material. And I mean, it's
well, you can pause too,
you know,
and go forward and go back and look at something again.
Right.
And they come up and then form your thought.
Right.
If you do video.
Right.
I love saying that, but it comes from a place where people are just really conscientious.
Yeah.
They feel like they have some kind of way that they have to advocate for the group. They have to contribute to it. So this is my effort. I will come prepared. And I don't come prepared, I think you will feel less of me.
Right.
And I would want people to realize you're a child of God, as you are right here, right now, in all the messiness of your life. Whether you've lived up to your expectation or what you perceive as other people's expectation or not, you are welcome.
Right.
And we value the time with you. We're not going to feel less than because you didn't do the reading.
Right.
Yeah, what a great principle about which we should remind everyone. Let's take a look at the next slide in this real quick sequence here. Group members are motivated. We all are motivated by three things. Is from Dan Pink's book Drive, which is based on earlier research called self-determination theory. But basically, he's the one that popularized this, and I highly recommend that book. But basically, everybody wants to feel autonomy. So I have that choice, that voice. I don't have to do exactly didactically what is handed down to me. But also mastery. I perceive I have the capacity to do this. So if you ask me to do something in the small group or my professional life or family life, or I don't perceive that the skill set, I'm going to deflect. I'm going to make excuses. I'm going to put off. I'm less likely to feel belonging to whatever it is and commit to it, whatever the task is. And the last thing is purpose. Do I feel like I'm a part of something that matters in the world and is larger than myself? And I have a role to play in that. So as a group leader, I'm struck by the need to make sure that everybody in the group over the course of weeks, it may not happen in every session, but I'm going to be mindful and very proactive. Are the group members experiencing autonomy? Are they experiencing some mastery? And are they experiencing a sense of purpose in the group? And what might that look like? We can brainstorm at some point if people want to do that.
Great.
And then the next one on that slide is, a lot of times things can get a little bit divisive or challenging. And one of the things that a group leader can do is always come back, hey, what do we hold in common? And from that, we branch out, not from immediately what are our divergent thinking. It really regrounds us and makes sure, oh yeah, I am connected to you even though I disagree with you on this thing, and rather strongly about this. And I'm not going to start forming judgments about you because we do come from a common place. Okay. Next one there, on the last one on this particular slide, is that I have found that group leaders who live up to this are more effective leaders. And just an exercise that people can do with their own group or just themselves is think about people from whom you would willingly receive feedback and critique from them. And what is it in their character and the way they conduct themselves that makes you want to get feedback from them and that you would internalize, you would value it? Then think about people for whom you'd really not care. You would be reluctant to accept feedback from them.
I would rather not hear from you.
I'm good. I'll take that under advisement. Thank you very much, and you move on. What is it about their conduct, their character, that prohibits you or limits you in accepting their feedback? And then what am I going to say to do? Look at yourself. Do you conduct yourself in such a way that people would be willing to take feedback and critique from you because they would value it? You have credibility, you have respect, you have connection to them. Maybe a mutual ethos. You really feel like that person, or if it be yourself, is looking out for the other rather than just trying to document the ticks where they fall apart or are less than to some degree. And we don't want to be that. We don't want to be judged by that. And I think that will inform and change the energy and how you focus on things in the group in terms of your own behavior as a leader.
Well, yes, exactly. You have to personalize that. And I mean, and it takes work, right? Like
it does.
It takes a lot of work to be self-aware of how am I coming across. I have this thought. Should I say that thought? What can be the outcomes of that thought? But that's kind of our role as facilitators. I mean, that's really what we're there for.
And remember, your success as a group leader comes with the success of your group members. Not you demonstrating how you understood all this stuff and came to know it like you're just telling a memoir of your own learning. The idea is that I need to see you all doing it and get you to arrive at your own discoveries, not just give you some narrative you should accept, to that. So one of the things that happens in all of this is, well, I don't read the Bible as much. I'm not as biblical. I don't know all those scriptures that you guys know inside and out. And then you made a connection to another earlier book in the Bible. Well, that was just like what they're, and John Wesley, I sort of know who he is, So this can be hard. So this next slide is about, could you publicly recognize and embrace this idea of imposter syndrome? That everybody comes to the group with different levels of readiness and acceptance with various things. And that it's completely natural. And we'd like you just like you are, whether you're scholarly in the Bible or not, whatever it might be. I just think that in today's world, we're all keenly or hyper aware of imposters out there. People who pretend to do things but really are not there. There are sometimes people at work who don't feel like their work matters, so they go out of their way to prove that they matter, and they become rather annoying to other people because they're always trying to prove that, well, my job is so busy, I've got so much to do, and oh no, there's so many things on my plate, and all these different things. And you just, in a way, it comes across very superficial, like you're trying to prove that the job can't be done without you being present,
Sure.
that you matter.
Yeah.
And that's just an early sign that you don't feel like you belong.
Right.
And we need to be mindful of that.
Yes.
That you can be less than what you want yourself to be, but you are valued, and we are enriched by your presence.
Right. Well, we all fall short of the glory, as Paul says.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly as you do that. Now, this is one of my favorite things to do, whether it be educators or working with faith communities or any other community, is to periodically stop and have people give, in a sense, testimony. And what you do is you identify somebody who you really respect. And they might be people with whom you work. It could be family members. It could be friends. It could be faith leaders. It could be historical figures. It could be authors. People who have passed away. People who currently, it doesn't matter.
Right.
People that you really respect. And when you have a difficult decision and things are kind of out of balance, you would pause and go, wait, what would she say right now? You pause. I hear their voice. Now I know what to do. It's a way to find strength, but also clarity. And perhaps that clarity creates that strength, that courage and conviction that otherwise you would not achieve.
Right.
Comes because you thought about your life or faith or education or professional touchstone. So it's a valuable activity.
Oh, it does sound like I mean, there is the age-old "What would Jesus do?" So
Oh,
that's
of course,
an obvious
of course.
one. But
It's an
why
easy
don't-
go-to.
Yeah, why don't you guys at your tables, one or two of you? I don't know that we have time for everybody, but one or two of you at your table, if you wouldn't mind sharing, who is your touchstone? Who would be that person that you would like to listen to, or you would go to as a trusted advisor? Take some time and discuss that at your table, and we'll be back.